Hello and welcome to Red Sports Talk. My name is Zach. We've officially made it to the final week of the NFL regular season. We've made it to week 18. Now, in week 17, I went 9-7 with my picks, a little bit of a down week, which gives me an overall record of 165-90 on the season. Now let's get into these picks for week 18. So week 18 of the NFL season kicks off with actually a couple of Saturday games. First off, you have a NFC South matchup as the Carolina Panthers, who are 8-8, take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 7-9. Carolina coming off of a loss to the Seattle Seahawks. Tampa Bay coming off of a loss to the Miami Dolphins. And this is a game that Carolina, it's very simple for them. If they win, they are guaranteed to win the division. They get the playoff spot for the NFC South. For Tampa Bay, it's a little bit more complex. If they get the win, they are not guaranteed a slot. They're not guaranteed to win the division. They would have to wait and see if the Falcons beat the Saints. If the Falcons beat the Saints on Sunday, then Carolina would get in regardless of if Tampa wins due to tiebreakers and division record. Now, this game, I do think it'll be a fairly good game. They played each other a couple weeks ago in a very close victory for Carolina. Carolina is a team that has been really back and forth on their games. They've been very inconsistent from week to week. You don't really know which Carolina Panthers team you're going to get. With Tampa Bay, they have been on an absolute downward spiral. They have lost 7 of their past 8 games. Obviously, coming off of a loss to Miami, which the team I thought they should have beaten. So I do think this will be a close game, but I am going to pick Carolina to get the victory. I know they've gone back and forth, but this is the week, coming off the loss, this is the week that they should perform well. I think Bryce Young could have a good game. I think Tedderone McMillan could have a pretty good game against this Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary. I think the run game between Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard should be able to play very well against this Buccaneers defense. I think this Panthers defense is good enough to limit scoring opportunities for Tampa Bay. So give me Carolina to win this game and win the NFC South. Next up, a Saturday night game. You have the Seattle Seahawks, who are 13-3, coming off of their victory over the Carolina Panthers, taking on the San Francisco 49ers, who are 12-4, coming off of a shootout victory over the Chicago Bears. For this game, very simple. The winner of this game not only wins the NFC West, but is guaranteed the number 1 seed in the entire NFC. This is another one I think will be a very good game. I think it's going to be very close. For Seattle, their defense has been playing very good. Especially against Carolina, kept them in the game against the Rams a couple weeks ago, when they got a victory. The question for Seattle is their offense. There are times their offense has looked great this season. Over the past few weeks, Sam Darnold has struggled a little bit, has turned the ball over a bit, but they've been really bailed out by their run game with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. So defense playing very good. Offense has been playing questionable and has some turnovers the past few weeks. For the Niners, kind of the opposite story. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders. Healthy Brock Purdy playing terrific. Christian McCaffrey playing with the best running back in the NFL. Juwan Jennings playing very well. They should get George Kittle back from his ankle injury that caused him to miss the Bears game this past week. But even without George Kittle, Jake Tonges, their number 2 tight end, has been played tremendous. So their offense has very much been clicking, especially when they're all healthy. Their defense has struggled a bit, especially against the pass. So I think this will be a very good game. Be very close games, as divisional. But I do think that the San Francisco 49ers get the victory here. I trust them, and I trust Brock Purdy more than I trust Sam Darnold and the Seahawks team, although Sam Darnold and the Seahawks have been playing very good football this year. I just feel like the 49ers have been getting hot at the right time. I do think the Niners get the victory over the Seattle Seahawks and get the number 1 seed in the NFC. Now moving on to your Sunday games. First up, you have another NFC South matchup as the New Orleans Saints, who are 6-10, take on the Atlanta Falcons, who are 7-9. The Saints coming off of a victory over the Tennessee Titans in what was a close, very competitive football game. The Atlanta Falcons, are coming off of a very surprising win over the LA Rams, in which they got out to a big lead, almost falconed it, almost blew their lead, but found a way to get the victory. This is a game that, for the two of them, is very meaningless. Doesn't matter to them who wins. But the Falcons, if they do win, and the Buccaneers find a way to win, obviously it would cost Tampa the division. This is a game, again, I think to be very good. The Saints have been playing very good football with Tyler Shough as their starting quarterback. He's been playing, terrific. Their offense has been very much clicking. But they are going to be without Chris Olave in this game, so I have to wonder how that will affect them. For the Falcons, the past couple weeks, they've been playing very good. A few weeks ago, they beat the Buccaneers, obviously coming off a win over the Rams. Bijan Robinson played great in that game. Kirk Cousins played well enough to get them victories. So I think this could be a very close, very competitive game. But I am going to go with the Saints to get the win here. I think their defense can play very well against this Falcons team. And I think that their offense under Tyler Shough should be able to play well enough against this Falcons defense. I don't think Tyler Shough will have a lot of turnovers. I think Audric Estime can get things going in the run game. I think Taysom Hill, if they use him properly as the Swiss Army knife player he is in what could possibly be his final NFL game, I think that the Saints offense should be able to do enough even without Chris Olave, and I think this defense should be able to slow down this Falcons offense. I think the Saints get the victory over Atlanta. Next up, you have the Cleveland Browns, who are 4-12, taking on the Browns coming off of a victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers this past week, taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 6-10, coming off of a very dominant victory over the Arizona Cardinals. This is another game that kind of two opposites for the teams. The Browns, very dominant defense, had an offense that has been struggling. Shedeur Sanders has looked very good at times, but at other times has really shown why he is somebody that fell to the 5th round in this year's draft. But again, not going to have Quinshon Judkins, but I think Dylan Sampson and Raheem Sanders are two very capable running backs. Hopefully they could have Harold Fannin back from his groin injury, as he has really been their number one receiving target as a tight end for Shedeur Sanders. Obviously their defense playing very good. Myles Garrett still 1 sack away from breaking the all-time sack record for the NFL. For the Cincinnati Bengals, their offense has been clicking with, obviously Joe Burrow back from his injury, Jamar Chase playing well, Chase Brown playing very well the past few weeks, but their defense has continued to struggle and not look good as they have most of the season. These two teams last met week 1 of this season, so they look a whole lot different from then, especially, at quarterback. Start of the season, it was Joe Flacco for Cleveland. It is now Shedeur Sanders. The week 1 meeting was a very close matchup, as Browns defense did a very good job of slowing down the Cincinnati Bengals offense. I do think the Browns can once again slow down this Bengals offense. I don't trust the Bengals defense to stop the Browns offense as many times as they need to. So I do think the Cleveland Browns get what could be a very close, very low scoring victory here over the Cincinnati Bengals. Next up, you have the Green Bay Packers, who are 9-6-1, coming off of a loss to the Baltimore Ravens, in which their run defense could not stop Derrick Henry at all. Taking on the Minnesota Vikings, who are 8-8, coming off of a victory over the Detroit Lions, in which their defense looks tremendous. Max Brosmer did struggle a little bit, but their defense put them in tremendous field position for most of the game and allowed them to get the victory. This is a game for the Green Bay Packers. They're locked into the 7th seed right now for the NFC. They can't change their playoff seeding, so they're not going to be starting Jordan Love. It's going to be Clayton Tune getting the start at quarterback. Can't imagine that Josh Jacobs is going to play with his knee injury that he's been dealing with the past, most of the back half of the season. He's had knee swelling, so he probably will not play. It'll probably be Wilson starting at running back. So I do think the Minnesota Vikings will get the victory here. I think that their defense will perform, too well against this banged up Packers team that is resting starters. I think their offense, there's a possibility J.J. McCarthy starts, but if he doesn't, I think Max Brosmer, though he doesn't play great, can play efficient enough to kind of just help them get the victory. But I think the main push behind them getting the win this week will be how good their defense has been. So next up, you have the Dallas Cowboys, who are 7-8-1, coming off a victory over the Washington Commanders, taking on the New York Giants, who are 3-13, coming off of a victory over the Vegas Raiders. This is a game where we don't know how much we're going to see of Dak Prescott. It's reported that he's going to get the start, but don't know how much they're going to see him from there. Don't know how much CeeDee Lamb we're going to see. If obviously he's going to play, but if Dak comes out of the game, I would imagine that CeeDee would as well. But even without Dak, this Cowboys team still has a very good run game with Javonte Williams, George Pickens, a very good receiver in his own right. This defense, not the greatest, but their run defense has been playing much better since they got Quinnen Williams. But the Giants, obviously, still going to be full bore of all the Giants players. They're have guys playing for contracts, have guys just playing to compete, because you have guys that want to compete in this league, such as Jackson Dart, Wan'Dale Robinson for the offense. Defensively, this Giants defense has been playing pretty good this year. But I do think that the Cowboys will get the victory. I just trust them overall more as a team. They are a more talented team on both sides of the ball right now, even though the Cowboys defense struggled a lot most of the season. They've been playing much better football in the later end of the season, especially the run defense. And I think that this Cowboys team can run all over this Giants defense. If there's any part of the Giants that struggle, it has been in run defense. So I do think the Dallas Cowboys get the victory over the New York Giants. Moving on, you have the Tennessee Titans, who are 3-13, coming off of their loss to the New Orleans Saints, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 12-4, coming off a victory over the Indianapolis Colts. For the Jaguars, if they win this game, they are guaranteed to win the division. And depending on how the Patriots and Broncos games go later in the day, they still have a shot at the number 1 seed, and possibly, or even the number 2 seed. I think Jacksonville gets the win here. They have something to play for. They have the division to play for. Their defense has been playing very good lately. Trevor Lawrence has been playing great the past month and a half, 2 months. Travis Etienne has been playing very good. I think Jacoby Myers should have a fairly good game here, as should Parker Washington. He's had a very good couple weeks. I think Tennessee can keep it competitive, because they've been very much this year a team that hasn't been getting many wins, but they've been staying competitive, which is good to see. It's good for them to kind of build to next year. But I do think the Jacksonville Jaguars get the victory here. Moving on, you have the Indianapolis Colts, who are 8-8, coming off of their loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars, taking on the Houston Texans, who are 11-5, coming off of a victory over the LA Chargers. For the Texans, obviously, if they win this game and the Jaguars lose, who are playing at the same time, the Texans still have a shot at winning the division, so they still have something to fight for. Obviously, winning would put them as high as the 5 seed in the AFC if the Jaguars were to win and the Texans didn't get the division. End game, I think the Texans will win this game. The Colts are no longer starting Phillip Rivers. They're now going to Riley Leonard. But I just like this Texans defense too much. I think they're going to be able to disrupt Riley Leonard, who is a rookie getting his first real NFL start. I think they're going to be able to disrupt him, maybe possibly slow down Jonathan Taylor a little bit. And this Texans offense has been inconsistent for most of the year, but I think they are good enough to put up points. So I do think that the Houston Texans can get the victory over the Indianapolis Colts. Moving on, you have the New York Jets, who are 3-13, coming off of getting absolutely bodied by the New England Patriots, take on the Buffalo Bills, who are 11-5, coming off of a very close loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, in which they went for 2 at the end of the game to put them in the lead and did not convert. This is a game, I don't know how many of the Buffalo Bills starters we're going to see for how long, but I still think Buffalo gets the win here. The Jets have just not been good this season. Again, they're going to be starting. I'm blanking on his name, the rookie quarterback. has started the past few weeks. Starting the Jets actually could make history this week. If they do not record an interception, they will be the only team in NFL history to not record an interception for the entirety of an NFL season. So go Jets, good on you. Most Jet stats ever. But yeah, I think the Buffalo Bills get the victory here. Even with their starters don't play a whole game, it's the Jets. It should be not an easy win because any team in the NFL can win, but I think Buffalo gets the win here. Moving on, you have the Detroit Lions, who are 8-8, taking on coming off of their loss to the Minnesota Vikings, taking on the Chicago Bears, who are 11-5, coming off of their very close shootout loss to the San Francisco 49ers. For the Bears, they could still get the 2 seed in the NFC if they win this game. For the Lions, unfortunately, their loss to the Vikings eliminated them from playoff contention last week, but I know they're a team that will always want to compete and have the ability to spoil something about a division rival's season, even if it's just knocking them to a lower seed in the playoffs. I know it's what they something that they would like to do. I do think, however, that the Bears get the victory here. I think the Lions are just too beat up. Their offensive line is too beat up this year. I think, especially in the secondary on their defense, is very much beat up. I think Caleb Williams and this Bears offense can kind of exploit their injuries and their lack of depth in the secondary. I think that they should be able to have a pretty decent run game against this Lions defense as well. Be able to pressure Jared Goff, make him make mistakes with that banged up offensive line. I do think the Chicago Bears get the victory here, and Caleb Williams has a chance to set a Bears franchise record and be the first Bears quarterback ever to throw for 4,000 yards in a season in this game. I think he just needs 270 more yards to set that. So I think that's something that he, another thing they had to play for is trying to get that 4,000 yard passer. But I do think the Bears get the victory here over the Lions in what might be a competitive game because it is a divisional game. Moving on, you have the LA Chargers, who are 11-5, coming off of their loss to the Houston Texans, taking on the Denver Broncos, who are 13-3, coming off of a very close victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. Denver, if they win this game, is guaranteed the 1 seed in the AFC, guaranteed home field advantage in that bye week going into the playoffs. The Chargers are pretty much locked in their position. If they won, they could go to the 5 seed in the AFC, but I think they're pretty content with just being in the playoffs as they are resting Justin Herbert in this game. So Trey Lance is going to get the start against this very good Denver Broncos defense. So I do think the Broncos get the victory here. I think the defense should be able to disrupt and cause havoc for Trey Lance all game. I think Bo Nix should have a pretty good game against this Chargers defense. So I think the Broncos get the victory and ultimately clinch the 1 seed in the AFC. Moving on, you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 6-10, coming off of their loss to the Denver Broncos, taking on the Vegas Raiders, who are 2-14, coming off of their loss to the New York Giants. The Raiders, if they lose this game, lock up the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. The Chiefs are still playing for pride at this point. I believe they will still be starting Chris Oladokun at quarterback because, obviously Gardner Minshew's knee injury and Patrick Mahomes with his torn ACL. The Raiders, looks like they will be a mixture of Kenny Pickett and Aiden O'Connell for this game. If the Raiders actually wanted to win, I think Aiden O'Connell would be the best choice for them to get the victory, because I think he's a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett. But I don't really think they want to win all that much. They're probably just going to go with Kenny Pickett. They have no Brock Bowers. They have no Max Crosby. This Chiefs defense is still a fairly good defense. So I do think the Kansas City Chiefs get the victory here. I think that they, still have a lot of pride, want to go out and show what they can do. Their defense is still very good. Chris Oladokun is, I would compare him to like a great value Patrick Mahomes. As you can tell, he's not the real thing, but he moves around like Patrick Mahomes. He just doesn't quite have that arm talent that Patrick Mahomes does, but he's still played pretty well against a very good Broncos defense. So I think he should be able to play well against a not very good Raiders defense. So I think the Chiefs get the victory here. Moving on, you have the Arizona Cardinals, who are 3-13, coming off of their loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, taking on the LA Rams, who are 11-5, coming off of their loss to the Atlanta Falcons. The Rams, I think if they win, best case scenario for the Rams, they get the 5 seed in the NFC. Or basically either the 5 or 6 seed, depending on how this game goes. I do think the Rams get the victory here. I'm not sure how much of the starters you're going to see in this game, as it is kind of meaningless for their standings. But I still like them to get the win, regardless of how much their starters play, as the Cardinals are kind of checked out at this point. Jacoby Brissett has been, kind of not been playing all that great the past couple of weeks. This Cardinals defense has not played very good the past few weeks. I think the Rams can get the victory here over the Arizona Cardinals. Moving on, you have the Miami Dolphins, who are 7-9, coming off of their victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, taking on the New England Patriots, who are 3-13, coming off of their destruction of the New York Jets. For the Patriots, they do still have the 1 seed to play for. They play at the same time as the Denver Broncos, so there is a chance that if the Patriots win and the Broncos lose, New England gets the 1 seed in the AFC, and then they lock up home field advantage. Miami, they're going to be starting Quinn Ewers again at quarterback. So don't know how their offense is going to look. They look pretty good against Tampa, but Tampa's defense has been on a downward spiral this season. I do think the Patriots get the victory here. I think because they still have something to play for. Drake May still has a shot at winning the MVP. Their run game should be able to go pretty well against this Dolphins defense with Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson should have pretty good games. They should get Kayshon Boutte back, as he missed last week's game with a concussion. So that opens up the deep threat against this Dolphins defense. Also, game is being played in New England in the cold. Miami does not play well in the cold. So I do think New England Patriots get the victory over the Miami Dolphins. Moving on, you have the Washington Commanders, who are 4-12, coming off of their loss to the Dallas Cowboys, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 11-5, coming off their victory over the Buffalo Bills. This is a game in which the Eagles are going to be resting some starters. They're starting Tanner McKee at quarterback. Probably going to be a lot of Tank Bigsby at running back with Will Shipley. And the Commanders are still starting Josh Johnson, so third-string quarterback. Still probably going to have Chris Rodriguez and Jacory Krosky-Merritt in the backfield. This is a game that honestly could go either way, as it is, banged up, very beat up Commanders team starting a whole lot of backups, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, who are starting a handful of backups as well. But I am going to go with the Eagles to get the victory. I think even though they are playing some backups, I still like how good their defense could be against this Commanders team and against Josh Johnson. I think Tanner McKee is a decent enough quarterback, and Tank Bigsby is a decent enough running back that their offense can stay afloat and put some points up. So I do think the Philadelphia Eagles get the victory over the Washington Commanders. Finally, your Sunday night football game, your final game of the 2025 NFL regular season. You have the Baltimore Ravens, who are 8-8, coming off of their victory over the Green Bay Packers, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 9-7, coming off of their loss to the Cleveland Browns. The winner of this game wins the AFC North, gets the 4 seed in the AFC playoff picture. This game is for the division. It's literally winner moves on, loser, their season is over. The Baltimore Ravens got some good news. It looks like Lamar Jackson will be able to play in this game, as he missed the Packers game with a back contusion. The Ravens figured out against the Packers that if you give Derrick Henry the ball a lot, good things happen, as they gave him 36 carries, and I believe he scored 4 touchdowns in a pretty dominant win. For the Steelers, they looked like they were really missing DK Metcalf when they played the Browns. Obviously, they're not going to have him again this week, as he is serving the second game of his suspension. So they have guys like Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Adam Thielen and Calvin Austin out there as their big player, as their really big receiving options. They're not going to have Darnell Washington, as he broke his arm and is out for the season. They do still have the pretty good running back tandem of Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren. However, this Ravens defense is a pretty good run defense. I do think the Baltimore Ravens get the victory here. I think that the Steelers without DK Metcalf, you can kind of shut down that offense. They don't have a big play receiver that they can get the ball to. I think you slow down the run game, then that very much helps because the Steelers don't really have any real options in the receiving game. And for the Baltimore Ravens, the defense has been playing very good. As long as they give the ball to Derrick Henry, I think if Derrick Henry gets at least 20 touches, the Ravens win this game. I know Lamar Jackson is still a very talented quarterback, but so I do trust that he can make a lot of plays with his arms and with his legs as well. But I think if they just go from the blueprint for against the Packers, give the ball to Derrick Henry, then the Baltimore Ravens will win this football game and will win the AFC North. So those are my picks for the week, for the final week of the NFL regular season. Let me know in the comments who you guys have winning these games. Let me know what games you're excited for. I'm very excited for the 49ers-Seahawks game. I think that one could have, arguably been justifiable being the Sunday Night Football game, even though I'm still excited for the Ravens-Steelers. That as a loser goes home game, winner moves on. But let me know what you guys are excited for this week. If you're excited for the playoffs, just let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Until next time.